Let me ask you as a banker, Hans, you know, a number of banks have exited or scaled back on their shipping business. Even though we hear that in terms of globalization, we still have all this investment going on. It seems to be a contradiction here. How can ship owners diversify their funding sources? Because one of the ironies is, if you look at the financial markets, you know, if you are in one segment of shipping, you're actually penalized. Excuse me. The market likes, you know, single plays because they're easy to understand. You know, the analysts don't have to think too much. They don't like diversification. Yet it seems if someone in the shipping industry wants to survive long term, they need to diversify. Thoughts on this and funding?
Now, if you look at the world of ship finance, historically, 70% of that has been provided by European banks. And what happened now in the aftermath of the financial crisis was that you had not only a shipping crisis, but you also had a crisis in the European banking system. So those two coincided. So what we've seen over the last couple of years now is that, first of all, that a lot of the new build finance has been picked up by the export credit agencies around the world, be it China, Korea, Norway for offshore projects. And you also start to see ship owners diversify the sources quite dramatically and also be more sophisticated in tapping the capital markets. Another, I mean, the bond market has been very vibrant the last couple of years, and you've also seen traditional ship owners team up with private equity to source funding for growth capital.
Is diversification the key to surviving over the next decade, Angelica?
I think it is important diversification, but we have to understand the type of diversification, because just to be, a grain house and to be going into shipping, that doesn't make sense. It's really a cost level. One of the things is that by having first of all, to have a successful shipping company, you need to control your cost, which is economies of scale that has to be internalized so that you can have these economies of scale, and cost of capital, which that can be done. I mean, Navios had done raising of 11 billion in the last 10 years, and you find different pockets. So by having low cost of capital and low OPEX, this is your recipe for a balance sheet issue. Now you can use your brand name and your processes across different segments, and you can have growth companies, you can have MLPs in dry bulk, in containers, in product, in crude. But as you very well said, this has to be in separate companies that can have some kind of holding, but it has to be in a separate kind of a structure for the US.
Leon Engel, yeah.
My thesis at MIT was on diversification and efficiency frontiers. So if you diversify, you definitely reduce your risk and you enhance your return, because the different sectors are not moving at the same pace and are uncorrelated. So if you have dry exposure, wet, gas, offshore, at some point in time, one of the sectors is going to be doing better than others.
It's too bad that not more people read your thesis in the shipping industry in terms of diversification, because we do have a lot of people who are into single plays. Yeah.
It's a good way to fall asleep.
There you go, exactly. Okay, Ingvild, yeah.
I think I totally follow what you're saying, Angelica. Yeah, and I think it's also all about understanding the risks you're taking with the different approaches in the different segments. So you can diversify and you can tap into a number of different financial resources, but you have to understand, for instance, private equity. What kind of risk are you taking on if you tap into that source of financing? It's totally different from the traditional ship owner, where you take a long-term view and backed by the banks.